Dear students, in this video, you will get practical insights into how exams are conducted at the Chair of Digital Management at the University of Hohenheim. Please note that the information materials on exams include two building blocks. On the one hand, you will be provided with a PDF document where you will find general information about exams, electronic exams, and question types, and on the other hand, this video. We record this video directly in the examination tool, so you know what to expect when the exam draws near. My name is Daniel Tchaikovsky. I work at the Chair of Digital Management, and in this video, I will introduce to you the examination tool regarding structure, regarding all the functionalities available, and regarding the question types we will use in the exams. During the exam, at the seat assigned to you, there will be a laptop or PC already. On this device, the online exams website of the University of Hohenheim is already open, so first you need to log in. So the login data, meaning the username and the password, you will receive directly on site at the beginning of the e-exam. So those are different login credentials than the ones you use privately to access Elias from your personal devices. So you do not need to know your username or password for Elias that you use privately, as you will receive completely new login credentials from the technical support on site. What you do is you enter your username as well as your password you just received before the exam started, and then you press login. And then first you will be asked to accept the terms of service. So you select this checkbox and then you press submit. So in the next window, the group of the exam is displayed, which you have to select. And then in the following window, you select the exam itself. Now you receive some information regarding the exam. This information is not new, but it will be provided to you before the exam, either in the general information material regarding exams at the chair or specifically in your course. Also in this frame, you find the general instructions regarding how to work on the exam, but all of this information will also be familiar for you from before. So once you have read through this introductory message, you can select Start the Test. And only in the very instant that you press this button, your processing time for the exam starts. That means that you have no advantage or disadvantage if you are faster or slower in reading the introductory message. For all participants, the processing time for the exam starts individually in the second in which they press Start the Test. After you have started the test, you see your dashboard. Your dashboard provides an overview at one glance regarding the number of questions, regarding the question title, and the maximum of points you can achieve for this question. Also, you can see if you have already answered the question or if you have flagged it. We will look in detail at all of these options later within this video. Above the overview of the questions, you can also see at one glance how many minutes you still have remaining of the processing time of the exam. Here in this demonstration exam, the question titles are named according to the type of question. In the actual exam, the titles of the questions will correspond to the subject areas of the question. That means, for instance, if a question thematically deals with smart cities, then here for question title, you will see smart cities and not open-ended question as in this demonstration exam. From the dashboard, you can choose any question you want in any order. That means if you want to start, for example, with question number 6, you can just select this question first. So from the dashboard, you can choose any question you want in any order. That means, for example, if you want to start with question number 6, you can just select this question and work on it first. So you do not have to proceed in chronological order. And you can also change your answers to the questions as often as you like during the processing time while working on the exam. For example, you have already worked on a specific question at the very beginning of the exam time, then you can still change your answer to this question as long as you still have processing time available in the exam. It is also important to note that the question order is randomized. That means that all participants in the same exam have a different arrangement, a different order of questions in front of them. Do not let it irritate you if you see in the exam as the question number 1, for example, an arrangement question, but the person next to you starts typing. It is very possible that this person has an open-ended question as the first question, or simply that they did not start with the question number 1. Now let's jump into one question. We can do that by simply pressing the question title from the dashboard. Now you see the question, but first we want to go through all of the menu items displayed in this frame. Here on the left, you can show list of questions. So if you select this option, you will see displayed on the left of your screen a list of all the questions asked in the exam. And here you can also jump directly between the questions by just selecting another question from the list of questions. And you can, of course, also hide the list of questions again. The second option on the menu bar is the dashboard. By clicking here, you go back to the dashboard directly. And lastly, here you see finish the test. Once you are satisfied with all your answers to the questions, you can select this option, but we will talk about finishing the exam later in this video. On the right, we see the option Actions. Clicking here, we can select Mark this question. That means that this question will be highlighted with a star. So you can mark questions, for example, to which you want to return later during the processing time to review your answers. You see the star, you see that a question is flagged directly here in the list of questions and also here on the dashboard. Of course, you can also remove the star again by going into the question and under Actions, select Remove this mark. Above the question text, you can see the title of the question, the number of the question, and the maximum number of points you can achieve. As already demonstrated, you can go to another question by selecting it in the list of questions. Otherwise, you can also go back to the dashboard and then select a question from the list here. A further option to go to another question is to select Next. So this will simply transport you to the next question in your sequence of questions. And of course, you can also jump back to the previous question by selecting Previous. When you have answered a question, in this case, if you have typed in a solution for an open-ended question, your answer is automatically saved once you switch to another question, either by selecting Next, by going back to the dashboard, or by selecting the other question from the list of questions on the left. So for many question types, there isn't even a button to manually save, as your answers are automatically saved the moment you switch to another question. If you have just answered a question, for example, typed in a text for an open-ended question, you can undo this answer by selecting Undo Editing under Actions. So once you press this button, the text will be deleted and you can start again. If you answered a question, then jumped to another question, so your answer was saved, and then returned to the original question later, you can also delete your answer by pressing Delete Answer under Actions. Then you are prompted to confirm that you actually want to delete your answer, and you press Delete Answer again. Your answer, in this case, the text I had typed, is deleted. This, of course, works for all question types. For example, in an arrangement question, once I press Delete Answer, the arrangement I had drawn up is deleted and I can start afresh. Once you answer a question, and then turn to another question, for example, through the Next button, you will see that the symbol for the question you just answered changes. For all questions which are still open, you see a small white empty circle next to the question title. But for all the questions you have already worked on, you see that the circle turns blue. At one glance, you can see in the list of questions how many questions you have already worked on and how many still remain. And you can also see this information in the dashboard. Here below answered, it says yes. So the dashboard tells you how many questions are still open and which questions you have flagged. At the top of the dashboard and also above the question, you always see how many minutes you still have remaining to work on the exam. So this counts down automatically. In this demonstration exam, we initially had 60 minutes, but the exam length can vary, and you will receive specific information about the length of your exam during your course at the Chair of Digital Management. Now let's look at the different question types which you also find detailed in the PDF document, which is part of the information material regarding exams. First of all, the open-ended question. Here you see a text box in which you can type your answer. And above the text box are the exam instructions, which tell you what we are looking for regarding your answer. And directly above the text box, you can see different options to format your answer. So here you can make your answer text bold or put it in italics or reverse these formatting options. And you can also choose a background color. And finally, you can also delete all this formatting. As an indication how much text we expect from you, you can always take into consideration the number of points you can achieve for this question. As already shown, in our example with the 60-minute question, 60 points can be achieved. That means 1 point per minute. For this specific question here, where you can achieve 2 points, you should need approximately 2 minutes to work on. For answering open-ended questions, grammatical or spelling errors do not count, but your answer must be understandable. We must know what you want to tell us. And as already emphasized before, you can change your answer as often as you like during the processing time. You can delete it completely or partially or add further text. You can do this for all types of questions. So in this demonstration exam, you will not find any questions which are related to actual exam questions asked in the past or in the future at the chair. What we have just seen was a short open-ended question. Now let's move on to a different form of this question type. Here you can see that an open-ended question can be divided into several subtasks. For example, task A and task B. If in your exam you have such an open-ended question, we will tell you precisely how many points you can achieve per subtask. Here, the whole question awards you 7 points, and then 5 points can be achieved in subtask A and further 2 points in subtask B. An advantage of electronic exams is that we can use graphical representations. So here you see that as part of an open-ended question, we can, for example, use a map. When you answer such an open-ended question with more than one subtask, it is crucial that you make clear in your answer which subtask you are currently working on, preferably by just typing A and B before starting to write your answer text. If you are typing a lot of text to answer an open-ended question, it can be useful to increase the size of the text field. You can simply do that by going to the bottom right corner of the text field, then holding it down, and while pressing the left mouse pointer, holding it down, you can expand the size of the text field. No matter how large or small the text field is which you're working with, you do not have a character limit. That means that you can write as much text as you think is needed to answer the question. As indicated before, your answers to questions are saved automatically at the latest when you switch to another question. But in this case, where you are typing long paragraphs of text, it can make sense to use the manual save option here, which is located directly above the text field. Now we have examined open-ended questions. You saw that for this question type, you have a text field where you can freely type in your answer, and you can still change this answer during the processing time of the exam. You have seen that open-ended questions can be quite simple, but also a little bit more complex regarding the structure. For example, by containing subtasks or by using graphical elements. Now we want to look at the next question type, single choice questions. As stated in the PDF document regarding e-exams, single choice questions at the University of Hohenheim always have 3 or 4 answer options, and always exactly one of these answer options is correct. Hence, there are never questions where you have to tick more than one answer, and this is also not technically possible in the e-exam tool. To answer a single choice question, simply select the answer option which you think is the correct one. And as for all other question types, you can still change the selected answer option during the processing time. So if you answer the single choice question correctly, you will receive all the points for this question, in this case here 2. If you do not answer, or if you answer incorrectly, you will not receive any points. However, it is not possible to receive minus points. So let's move on to another single choice question. Here you can see that this question type can also contain 4 answer options. For single choice questions, it is crucial that you thoroughly read the instruction text. So for example, here we have a negation, which changes the total meaning of the statement. Also keep in mind that the order of the answer options in single choice questions can be randomized. That means that you see a different order of these 4 options than the next participant sitting next to you during the exam. Now we have examined single choice questions. We have seen that they either have 3 or 4 answer options, and that it is always the case that exactly one of these answer options is correct, and that you have to make sure that you read exactly what is asked for in the question text. Now we want to look at the next question type, mapping questions. Mapping questions are structured like this, so you have elements on the left and elements on the right. So the elements on the left are fixed, but the elements on the right you can freely move. You simply do that by holding down the left mouse pointer and then dragging the element to one of the elements on the left. Here, for example, you have different years on the left, and here on the right, historical milestones in the history of the University of Hohenheim. As for any other question type in the exam, you can change your mapping as often as you like during the processing time. To do that, you simply remove the option you have chosen so far and then drag another option to this element. Here, the question text indicates that we are looking for one-to-one relationships. That means that for every year, there's one historic milestone. So you have to match every element on the left with one element from the right. And for example, it isn't even technically possible to match one element on the left with 2 elements from the right. Also, with this question type, the order of the elements on the left and on the right can be randomized. That means that you get a different order on your laptop or PC than the other participants in the exam. You get points for each correct pair which you have mapped correctly. For instance, here, if I had assigned 2 historical milestones correctly and 2 not, I would get half of the points. It would be 1 out of 2 points for this demonstration question. You can also undo your mapping with the option Undo Editing below Actions. So now we have looked at mapping questions. We have seen that this question is about assigning flexible elements on the right to fixed elements on the left, and we have seen that we can undo this assignment as often as desired during the processing time. Next, we will look at arrangement questions. For arrangement questions, elements have to be placed in the correct order, a little similar what we have just seen in the mapping question. Again, you can move elements by selecting them and then pressing the left mouse pointer and then changing the arrangement. In this question, the number of elements we have to arrange is 3, but this may vary from question to question. It is crucial here that you read the question text carefully. Here, for example, you are asked to start the arrangement with the faculty with the most students in descending order from left to right. So if you think, for example, that the Faculty of Economics and Social Sciences is the one with the most students, you select this faculty and drag it to the left. It is vital that you pay attention to the question text, because only if you sort the items in accordance with the instructions, we can score your knowledge accordingly. Also for arrangement questions, the sequence, the order of the options is randomized. So that means that the order you see at the beginning, the starting point, is different from what other participants see. And it can, of course, also be that the order presented at the beginning is already correct. In this case, you select the present order is correct. In this case, the arrangement question is displayed horizontally. That means that the elements are displayed next to each other. But in an arrangement question, we can also have the case that the elements are displayed below each other, that the arrangement question is shown to you vertically. You can simply change the order of the elements by selecting one and then holding down the left mouse pointer and dragging it to another spot in the arrangement. Of course, also here, you have to carefully read the instructions, in this case, sort in descending order from up to down. Now we have considered the question type arrangement question, and we have seen that it is similar to mapping questions, but for arrangement questions, we do not have to match movable elements to fixed ones, but we have to change the order of the elements themselves. We have seen that these elements can be arranged either next to each other or below each other, and we have seen that it is crucial to pay close attention to the question text. As last question type, let's look at fill-in-the-blank questions. Here, you do not have to write a longer text as for open-ended questions, but only have to fill in one gap with, for example, one word or a half sentence or the result of a short calculation or similar. For one fill-in-the-blank question, there can be more than one gap. As you see here, you have 3 different gaps within one question, and you can fill in all of these gaps separately. You simply do so by selecting the gap and then typing in your answer text. As with all other question types, you can also here change your answers which you have typed in previously during the processing time of the exam. As with open-ended questions, spelling is not evaluated. However, it must be, of course, understandable what you mean with your answers. In this example here, 3 points are assigned. That means 1 point per gap. So if you answer one gap correctly and you do not answer the other 2, or you answer them incorrectly, you will receive 1 out of 3 points. Generally, it is also possible to achieve half points in fill-in-the-blank questions. Let's move on to another question of this type. As discussed before, instead of a word, it can also be that you have to enter a number. In those cases where your answer takes the form of a number, you will often receive instructions regarding the format above. For instance, here, we tell you that you have to separate your value with a dot and that the currency is already stated. So please respect these instructions. As the final question type, we have now considered fill-in-the-blank questions, and we have seen that just as with open-ended questions, we have to write a text here. So of course, for fill-in-the-blank questions, the answers have been much shorter, and for open-ended question, often only containing one word or one number. And as with all other questions, we have seen that we can change our answer as often as we like during the processing time. When the processing time of the exam is already more advanced, your list of questions probably looks like this. You see a lot of small blue circles, which, as discussed before, mean that you've already provided an answer for these questions, and perhaps still some questions left which are flagged with a star, which you highlighted for yourself in order to return to those questions at a later point. Also, if you return to the dashboard, you can see the overview over the questions you have answered and the ones you have flagged for later inspection. For the last 5 minutes of processing time, you will not only see how many minutes you still have left, but also how many seconds are still left until the exam is finished. So this information is not only displayed above the questions, but also when you go to the dashboard, you can see precisely how many minutes and seconds you still have left to work on the exam. Once the exam time is over, all of your answers are saved and further editing of the questions is no longer possible. As discussed earlier, all questions are saved at the latest the moment that you leave the question, either to go to another question or to return to the dashboard. If you're doing some changes in the very last seconds of the exam, it is good to switch to the dashboard or to another question in order to ensure that the very last version of your answer is saved and is the one which will be evaluated by us. When you are done with answering all the questions and there's still time left in the exam, you can simply let the timer count down. At any moment during the exam, you can also decide to manually finish the test, either by pressing the Finish the Test button from the question view or by going back to the dashboard and selecting finish the test in the top right corner. Once you press this button, you're reminded that after you finish the test, you will not be able to return to the test and you will not be able to make any changes to your answers. That also means that you do not have to worry that with one wrong click, you can accidentally finish the exam. No, you will always receive this reminder here. And if you accidentally pressed finish the test, you can just click on here, no, go back to the previous question, and then you're back in the exam view. However, if you actually do want to finish the test, press the button and then press, yes, I want to finish the test. Now you are transported to the screen, which is presented to everyone, either after manually finishing the exam or after letting the time count down. So here we inform you on which date the grades will be uploaded on HoCampus at the latest. We hope that this video has given you good practical insights into electronic exams, and that together with the information provided in the PDF document, and of course the specific exam-related information in your course at the Chair of Digital Management, you are well prepared to take an electronic exam. Should there still be any open questions from your side, just ask them in your course or post your question on the Elias forum or simply write us an email to digital@uni-hohenheim.de. Thank you very much for your attention and best of luck for your exams.